Carillon's founder, Larry R. Pettit, CPA, CITP, CGMA, is a former Senior Audit Manager at Arthur Andersen Co. There is nothing more important to him than protecting the integrity of the audit trail. A common source of fraud is employees changing the details of an approved transaction after the fact, and the absence of automatic controls to detect those changes means the manipulation often goes unnoticed until significant damage has been done. Carillon's response to that risk is architectural. Once a financial transaction is approved in Carillon, it cannot be changed, period. A user can retrieve an approved transaction to view it, but the Save button is disabled. There is nothing to click, nothing to override, and no permission level that unlocks editing. The transaction is what it was when it was approved, and it will always be what it was when it was approved. If a correction is needed, the appropriate accounting remedy applies: a debit or credit memo, a journal entry, or a reversal, each of which creates its own traceable record rather than overwriting the original. Access to every transaction window in Carillon is individually rights-controlled. A user must have explicit rights to a window to enter or view a transaction at all. Approving transactions is a separately granted right, and no debits or credits post to the general ledger until approval occurs. Sales orders and purchase orders are the two transaction types where post-approval changes make operational sense. And even there, Carillon enforces controls. A change to an approved sales order requires reapproval by someone with sales order approval rights. A change to an approved purchase order automatically generates a formal change order with a complete revision history. By default, Carillon users also have no database rights. Even a user with the technical knowledge to manipulate data directly cannot do so without database access being explicitly granted, a separate infrastructure-level control that is off by default. When combined with Carillon's SQL Server temporal data feature, which tracks the full before and after history of every record change at the database level, including the last maintained by column that captures the network login ID of the last person to touch a record, Carillon's audit trail may not be perfect, but Carillon is not aware of any known faults in it. NetSuite does have an audit trail, and for many organizations it provides meaningful visibility. But in Carillon's view, it is not as immutable as Carillon's. Oracle's own documentation confirms that by default, approved transactions in NetSuite can be edited within the application by users with sufficient permissions. After editing an approved vendor bill, a user can reset the approval status to approved themselves, without routing back to the original approver, and without any notification being sent. Oracle's own documentation further confirms that the default vendor bill status can be configured to auto-approve, bypassing human review entirely. Locking a transaction after approval is not default NetSuite behavior. It requires a custom SuiteFlow workflow to be deliberately designed and deployed. Without that custom implementation, the door to post-approval editing remains open.